Hi, if you are watching, this is side one. This is proponents of plastic water bottles. I'm going to start with a video. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen.
When you see me holding this plastic bottle of water, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Quick and cheap hydration that you can grab when you're on the go. Yet another piece of plastic that's just going to end up polluting the planet. If my butler's not serving me sustainably harvested rainwater from Finland, well, then I'm not interested. When does my trust fund mature again? Okay, for real. If that's you, definitely give me your contact info because I think we really hit it off. If what popped into your brain was any variation of the first two responses, then you're no stranger to the dilemma that plastic bottles create. Short-term convenience on one hand, long-term threat to the planet on the other. I can go to Costco right now and buy a pallet of plastic water bottles. That's 1,900 16.9-ounce bottles for the cost of 20 cents per bottle. That's like a year and a half of water for one person. Now, the average American buys more than 300 plastic bottles a year. Factor in the rest of the world, and humans use 1 million plastic bottles per minute. And if you think recycling is the way to deal with it all, well, I have news for you. Fewer than half the bottles bought in 2016 were collected and recycled, and just 7% of those were turned into new bottles. Instead, most end up in landfills or in the ocean. To deal with this massive problem, some lawmakers, activists, businesses, and consumers are wrestling with this question. Should we ban single-use plastic bottles? Early forms of plastic have existed since the mid-1800s, giving us things like PVC for pipes, shellac for records, and the Bakelite telephone. But when World War II came along, scientists diverted all their plastic technology to help with the war effort. So after the war, all this plastic needed to go somewhere. So why not the American consumer? What we got was a plastic explosion. Tupperware, Swanson TV dinners, Barbie dolls, you name it, and it was probably made of plastic.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. What a great lead. And that is your lead. Where do plastic water bottles even come from? So you'll notice on your outline for proponents, plastic water bottles are the most common form of containers used for any liquid. If you think about it, open up your fridge. How many items in your fridge are in a plastic bottle? How many containers do you have, Tupperware or Ziploc? So if you look back in history, we can go back as far as 1862, but really plastic exploded after World War II, as you saw in the video. And this was when a new type of plastic was discovered, and that is PET, or polyethylene terephthalate. It is formed when ethylene glycol and terephthalic acid are combined, making it lightweight, moldable, and strong. So today, PET plastics bottles are the most common to be used in production. Two inventors from the US, Enoch Ferngren and William Kopitke, created the first plastic water bottles by mimicking the process of glass blow molding. It kind of makes sense. So yeah, plastic pretty much replaced glass. Glass, of course, would shatter. It was heavy. And even though it's recyclable, it's a lot. So they really kind of build plastic as environmentally safe. Okay, so those of you who have done the opponent's side, I mean, you can look at, and he kind of started, the video with, look what plastic is doing to our planet, right? And if you did the opponent's side, you also know that PET plastic leaches into the water bottle. As a matter of fact, water bottles have a shelf life. They don't last more than 2 years. And the reason is the plastic will start bleeding into the water, right? And then the other thing we talked about was microplastics. And we knew there were plastic particles, but we didn't know how many. And now that we can have microscopic technology, about the size of a virus is what a nanoplastic is, we can see that there are hundreds of thousands of nanoplastics in one bottle of water. Okay, so I used that to really convince students not to drink them, right? But here I am today, and I'm really going to kind of prove to you why they're necessary. And the first article, we're going to go to page 2, which is how to make water safe to drink during natural disasters. And the article's February 16th, 2024. And according to UNICEF, and by the way, I've gotten a lot of edits back. You have to write out UNICEF. It's an acronym. Always write out the acronym one time, then you can abbreviate after that. UNICEF is the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. And what they have found is 74% of all natural disasters are water related. What does this mean? It means whatever your natural disaster, a flood, a hurricane, an earthquake, tsunami, tornado, it can cause a water supply to be contaminated. Flooding can contaminate private wells, lakes, rivers, or other freshwater sources with, and this is gross, human waste, chemicals, bacteria, any contaminant, oil in an oil spill. And all of this can affect the public water supply. So what do we do during this kind of a disaster? And if you're not aware of it, Houston, Texas, has recently had floods and they've had boil water notices. Well, a boil water notice is fine if you have electricity. If you don't have electricity, then you need bottled water. Humans cannot survive without water for more than 2 days. When water is compromised, this is when water bottles come into play. So, according to the CDC, that is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, during an emergency, bottled water is the safest form of water to drink. So they actually advise storing at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for an emergency. And you really can't wait until an emergency happens, because then the bottled water may not be available. Pretty sure you're aware of the Red Cross. When the Red Cross comes in, any kind of natural disaster, it's blankets and cots and water. So let's talk about really kind of what's going on here in the water bottle industry. As you heard from the video, we per minute, there are 1 million bottles of water sold per minute. It's pretty incredible. Water bottle sales have surpassed soda and Gatorade and juices. I'm staggered by that. Researchers analyzed data from 109 countries and found that the bottled water industry saw a 73% growth between 2010 and 2020. In 2021, global bottled water sales reached 350 billion liters, valued at an estimated $270 billion, and that figure is expected to go to 500 billion by 2030. It is very, very popular throughout the world. In the US, richer nations, where clean water is available, bottled water is often seen as a luxury purchase. Well, because water bottle manufacturers market it as healthier and tastier than tap water. And this perception is fueled by the corporations that promote water bottle. But in many mid to low income countries, it is often linked to a lack of reliable access to safe tap water. Vladimir Smotkin, co-authored the report and the former director of the UN Water Think Tank, told CNN that the industry's expansion is potential to draw focus away from expanding public water infrastructure and worsen global inequities. And it will do this. So there is inequity, shocker, between rich nations and underdeveloped nations. A spokesperson for the International Bottled Water Association told CNN the industry supports strong public water systems, which are important for providing citizens with clean and safe drinking water. Bottled water is a key. Okay, well, so they're promoting their brand. Basically, what they're saying is, listen, when there is not an option, bottled water is one of the healthier options. Okay, so I want you to go to paragraph 1 in your outline, which you should have. So you'll notice what we're going to prove here is water bottle usage is often necessary in the event of a natural disaster or When there are industrial accidents polluting the tap water, or lower income or third world countries have limited access to potable water sources, and potable is drinkable. So notice number one is UNICEF, the CDC. And there are times when man-made disasters occur. The Department of Homeland Security has a preparedness website. They advise people to buy commercially bottled water and stored in a sealed original container in a cool, dark place. So one of the most famous examples of contamination in the United States was Flint, Michigan. In April of 2014, the public water supply decided to take water from the Flint River instead of Lake Huron, not knowing the toxicity of the water in the Flint River. And if you've been in my class, you know that there's an environmental protection agency, a government-run agency that tests public water supplies to make sure that they meet standards, safety standards. And they discovered the toxicity of the water. It was eroding the pipes. As a result, the tap water residents received was filled with lead and iron. So the government said, don't drink the water, don't bathe in the water. And between January 2016 and April 2018, residents were told not to use tap water, and the government supplied them with bottled water. A similar situation happened in St. Joseph, Louisiana. They dealt with lead poisoning, and their water supply between December 2016 and March 2018 received free water bottle from the state. So just example after example after example. It's rare, but it does happen. But here's the reality, and it's actually on the last page, which is on page 12, and I love this article. It says, rising is all the way to the end. Rising bottled water consumption signals safe drinking water is under threat, says the UN think tank. Here's the thing, you know, we're lucky in America. We have protection through the Environmental Protection Agency, through the EPA. We have high standards for public water consumption, and not every country looks at that the same way. You know, I asked kids in my class, you know, I said, as a lot of my kids are from India, and I said, do you want to drink the water in India? And they said no. And I said, well, why not? So that brings up this conversation here. The reason the bottled water market has seen such an increase is because of decades of limited progress and many failures in making sure that the public water supply systems are safe. This is Kava Madani, the Institute Director for the United Nations. He estimates 2.2 billion people do not have access to safe drinking water, with the number of people who have access growing by only 4% between 2016 and 2020. Developing nations depend on bottled water to make up this shortfall. Egypt, facing water scarcity, was the fastest growing market for treated bottled water from 2018 to 2021. And Singapore and Australia were the biggest per capita consumers of bottled water. Malaysia led developing countries in per capita consumption. More than a third of Americans said they use bottled water as their main water source. So to a somewhat surprising extent, bottled water has become the global source, believing it's safer than tap water. So that concludes body paragraph number 1's argument. So for lower income nations and places who face industrial contamination, as well as the tainted water resulting from natural disasters, water bottles really are the only option for a safe water source. Okay, now we're talking about extraordinary circumstances, aren't we, in body 1? I don't think you and I right now are in that position. So tap water is just fine for us. Okay, the other one that I found fascinating, the other argument was, and we talked about this in my class when I did it in person, those of you who are waiting to the very, very last minute here. I'm happy you're here. I know school's rough at the end. I was kind of stunned to know, you know, there are groups, especially California, an international airport in California banned water bottle water bottles. A national park banned water bottles. A college campus banned water bottles. And they found something really astonishing. Do you know what people do when they don't have access to bottled water? Which is 0 calories and a healthier option, which, by the way, we need in America, right? What happened was banning of plastic water bottles sold in major locations resulted in consumers ingesting unhealthy drinks, soda, juice, sports drinks, which they used to have a previous healthy habit, and now it's an unhealthy habit. Not good for the #1 obese nation, America, right? So if you go to the bottom of, I'm trying to think this article, should water bottle be banned? Oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that with the, should water bottle be banned? On the bottom of page 10, it says banning bottled water removes a healthy choice and leads to increased consumption of unhealthy sugary drinks. Increased consumption of 0-calorie bottled water is in place of high-calorie juices and sodas has cut trillions of calories from American diets. Yay! According to Michael C. Bellis, chairman and CEO of the Beverage Marketing Corporation, imagine a person cutting 161 hot dogs, 126 chocolate donuts, or 87 cheeseburgers from their diet last year. That's the kind of difference we're talking about when we quantify the number of calories saved due to this wide shift to bottled water. It's a pretty good argument, but I'm going to go even more. The Park Service discontinued their water bottle ban because they said it encouraged national parks. The ban removed the healthiest beverage choice water while still allowing sales of bottled sweetened drinks. Okay, the International Bottled Water Association noted research shows if bottled water isn't available, 63% of people will choose soda or another sugared drink, even if like a reusable water filler or tap water is available, they'll buy a soda. So in spring 2013, the University of Vermont banned the sale of single-use plastic water bottles on their campus, and the ban resulted in, you guessed it, an increased sale of higher calorie sugary drinks. Crazy, right? Why is that bad? Okay, so we talked about the beginning of class. The plastic bottle itself is made from PET, polyethylene terephthalate. Okay, but water bottles, PET, is thinner. If you feel a water bottle, it's got a very thin lining. A soda bottle is going to be thicker because of the carbonation bubbles. So the PET amount in a water bottle is 9.89 grams. The PET amount in a soda bottle would be 23.9 grams. So think about that. Not only are we encouraging an unhealthy, sugary, higher calorie drink, the soda bottle's worse for the environment, thicker plastic. A study by Qantas, commissioned by Nestle Waters, found the packaging and distribution of sports drinks, enhanced waters, and soda produce 50% more carbon dioxide emissions per serving than bottled water. Plastic water bottles make up 3.3% of all drink packaging in U.S. landfills, which is less than both plastic carbonated soft drink containers and aluminum cans. A study on that University of Vermont's ban on selling single-use plastic water bottles found the total shipments of plastic bottles actually increased 20% as consumers increased their consumption of less healthy bottled beverages rather than switching to using reusable bottles and drinking from water bottle fountains. That's crazy. I was telling my students in my class, do you remember Sprite? It was initially in a green, kind of a clearish green bottle. Sprite has changed to a clear bottle. Not because they're marketing it so, it like it's pure or whatever. No, they kind of caught some heat for having so many bottles in landfills and in oceans. They decided to put it in a clear bottle so it looked like a water bottle. Yeah. Really, really interesting. So banning of plastic water bottles encourages unhealthy, higher caloric, sugary drinks. So we know the bottled water market is huge. it has surpassed even soda sales. Global bottled water sales reached 350 billion liters, valued at 270 billion. I already gave you that number. It is so popular throughout the world. The US, China, and Indonesia are the largest consumers. In more affluent nations, such as the US, bottled water is not only widely available, but also perceived as healthier and tastier. So bottled water sales have surpassed soda. It is the preferred drink of choice. This is good news. I mean, if you swing it that way, it's good news for America because we need to be a healthier population. The continued increase in consumption of zero-calorie bottled water has led to better habits, replacing those sugary, high-caloric drinks. The American diet has benefited, and I kind of gave you that really interesting analogy there. A valid concern, if bottled water was banned, is consumers would simply purchase more bottled water beverages. So this is in number 2 on your outline, where I went to the University of Vermont. I went to the National Park Service. I didn't find the airport. If y'all want to find that, it's somewhere in the packet. I know there's an airport. Well, I just couldn't find it, and I had enough. But if you want to add it to yours, so according to the International Bottled Water Association, research shows if bottled water isn't available, 63% will choose a less healthy option. So replacing bottled water with high caloric beverages was not the only problem. The plastic bottle containers in sugary beverages are more harmful than the plastic and water bottles. That, again, that's that PET layer. So banning bottled water actually encourages worse habits, as consumers will drink less healthy water and buy unhealthy juice or soda bottles. I really think that's a pretty good argument. So we have 2 really strong arguments here. First and foremost, in a natural disaster, we don't have an option. If you look at what's happening in Ukraine with the Russia-Ukraine war, if you look at what's happening in Gaza, you are looking at water being the only option. So when it comes to banning plastic water bottles, sorry, it's my dogs. The evidence is clear from those who've tried to enforce bans. They not only stop the drinking of healthier water, they encourage consumption of unhealthy beverages, and there are circumstances where public water supplies are unsafe. So in your conclusion here, environmentalists propose switching from drinking bottled water to using reusable bottles. These are your Stanley cups or your Yetis. But there's something interesting about them too. They fail to mention that bottled water is actually more hygienically pure than that reusable bottle. So the biggest concerns with those reusable bottles, this is gross, is how often they're being cleaned, which apparently is not enough. People don't clean their bottles. Studies have found people are not as hygienic as they should be when reusing, say, a popular Stanley cup. As an example, a study performed at a fitness gym in Brazil found the harmful E. coli bacteria, you can die from E. coli, on 5 out of 30 reusable bottles they tested. Think about that. You put your bottle, this is my reusable, you put your bottle right underneath, you put your bottle, in that reusable. If someone put their bottle there and they have some kind of bacteria or flu virus, you're gonna be exposed to it. More reusable bottles are filled at water stations where other people may have exposed anyone who's filling their bottle with dangerous bacteria. Think about the pandemic. Why did they turn off all the water fountains? Water bottles have always been and can continue to be a safe alternative, preventing exposure to bacteria and viruses as compared to using reusable bottles. Okay, so I apologize, I'm at home. You got a little bit of my doggies barking. This concludes Proponents. I didn't do as much of the video as I did in class. So please submit your essay as soon as possible. And I thank you for watching. And I hope that you're finally able to relax a little bit. I think tomorrow is for Coppell and a couple more days for North Hills. And everybody should be out. And I hope you have a great summer. And I look forward to seeing you all in June. Have a great week.